usually they pretty resilient, and then they go die in the woods.
No, they
Okay.
called it out.
All right.
The guys aren't denied.
Welcome, everyone. I'm going to call to order the Town of Dudley Government Study Committee, Monday, November 24th, 2025 meeting. First order of business is call to order and Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a light agenda, but there's one thing we really want to get to first, which is our survey. And I believe we have a completed list of survey questions, and we just want to discuss that very briefly. And maybe Debbie can chime in a little bit on this, and then we just want to get that wrapped up and get it out. So are we going to be able to look at the questions?
Yep.
Okay.
I used the ones that are in blue that Debbie sent over.
Okay, did you put those in the spreadsheet or were those emailed?
But you're on that email.
Okay.
So you just want to show the email. And if you want me to just put the dongle in, I can also just share my screen.
Maybe you could read us the preamble that you wrote while we're trying to get it up?
Yep.
Okay.
The Town of Dudley is seeking input from residents to better understand how effective the local government communicates, how well our current governing structures is serving the community, and whether changes should be explored for the future. I apologize, I am dyslexic. Your
pressure.
feedback is an important part of evaluating potential improvements to transparency, efficiency, and representation in town governance. This survey includes questions about communications to the town's current form of government, possible areas for improvement, and your familiarity with the options such as a town charter or alternative town meeting structures. Your responses are anonymous, and will help us guide discussions and decision-making moving forward. Thank you for taking a few minutes to share your perspective. Your participation is valued and appreciated.
Thank you. And we have all the questions we want on the screen. Is there any chance of you blowing that up a little bit? Please.
No.
Okay.
It won't blow my
This
able.
is the bottom line on the eye
Wait.
chart. Oh, you did it.
Learning something new every day, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I think at the end, we'll take a vote to say that these are good questions and that we'll have these issued. We should probably take a vote for that, right?
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Chairman, you did vote on this last time, and these are only minor tweaks.
Okay,
So there's no agenda item to vote on the questions tonight.
okay, so this is as is, okay, fine. So we'll just go through the questions.
I did the blue ones.
The blue ones are the ones that we're posting.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you believe Town of Dudley news and government activities are effectively communicated to you? Okay, that's a fairly easy question. If people understand what they're receiving on their end, they answer yes or no. Do you believe the current government structure in the Town of Dudley works well and your voice is heard? I think that's very clear. Do you believe that changes to the current form of government should be examined and proposed? It's a very important question. Are you familiar with the charter method of municipal government? It's a little bit tougher question to answer, but if they say yes or no, that'll help guide our future actions, I think. And if yes, do you think the Town of Dudley should examine the feasibility of a charter?
So with this question on the survey, it will, if you hit yes, it'll bring you to that question, but if you hit no, it'll skip to the next one.
Okay, perfect. All right, wonderful. And do you believe the Town of Dudley should continue its open town meeting form of governance or examine a change to a representative type of town meeting? Perfect. Do you believe Dudley voters' use of the election process effectively places qualified individuals in key government positions, gives voters performance oversight of those elected, and provides the ability to correct poor performance? Perfect, yep, that's exactly what we want. So these questions will be sent over to Debbie LaPlaca, right?
She's the one who sent them. to
She
me.
sent them to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So is this, we're gonna do an online survey though, right?
Correct. And that, I just saw one edit, and that's the very first question. Do you believe Town of Dudley? It should be, do you believe the
Yeah, I
Town
added
of
that.
Dudley?
I thought so, yeah.
And I added Town of Dudley to all of your questions because people from outside of this community want to trip over the survey.
Mhm.
And so we make it clear each and every time, we're just talking about Dudley, we're just talking about Dudley.
Perfect.
I believe Olivia and Hannah perhaps are launching the survey.
Yeah, I think I'm just handing you it for the communications out to the
I'm sorry.
public. I'm just handing you the link so you can give it to the
Correct.
public, yeah.
Okay.
I have it all. I did wanna add, there was a couple questions that weren't in blue that is in there, so how important is your choice on whether or not Dudley chooses to have a charter, 10 being the highest
Okay.
importance, and then I have a sliding scale, you can
Perfect.
vote on that, and then I added a question, do you have any other comments that you would like the government study committee to know at the end?
Yeah, just a box type thing at the
It's just
bottom.
a comment box.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
How long these questions posted before we take them down?
We're looking to post them, I believe, on November 26th?
That'll be a question for
I
Debbie.
can post tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
If I have a link, I can get started tomorrow.
Perfect.
Which is perfect, because I have a place mark in the December newsletter. Kind of the centerpiece of the newsletter will be this.
Okay.
So I can get started right away the moment I have the link.
I can
And
send
with,
that to
with
her.
a closing date of,
Completely your decision, Mr. Chair. I would recommend at least 2 weeks.
okay,
More would be better. But to December, I think December 10 was the 2 weeks we were speaking about.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about the Santa visit and the Santa tour and all the photographs and how everybody's going to be hitting our Facebook page. That'll start to die down
Right.
about December 10th. But I don't see any reason not to go a third week. It's completely your decision.
Can you see what the responses are as you go, and then decide after that second week if you want to continue? Yeah.
okay.
That's a good question. Who will be monitoring the surveys? Will you?
I would assume me.
Okay, thank you. All right, wonderful.
I do have, you can have 3 logins, so if anyone needs a login, I can give it to you, and it's going to be free for now.
Good.
Unless like we hit the max, which is 1,000 responses, and we might wanna talk about putting money in for it, but for now, it's free.
All right, if we hit 1,000.
Yeah.
We had $1,000,
Be
right?
happy to throw a few bucks at it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, all right, wonderful, so that's great. So everything we voted on last time is still in place, and we'll assess it after 2 weeks. Perfect, thank you, Debbie, thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, on to item number 2, which is DPW discussion. So several times in the past few decades, I think, this topic has come up. And most recently is in December of 2018. And part of our commission from the Board of Selectmen is to, analyze certain parts of town government for effectiveness. We're looking at communication, we're looking at job descriptions, we're looking at elected versus appointed positions. We're really looking at everything, and this was certainly one thing that, from a high level, if anybody speaks of operational efficiencies and combining, functions or getting functions done perhaps in the right area or department, generally you'd say, well, that makes perfect sense, but sometimes it doesn't. So I think we wanted to pull together some of the experts on the other side, from the Water and Sewer Department, from the Highway Department, and some Board of Selectmen, to start discussing, what your opinions are on this topic, so that we can form some opinions and possibly in future polls, maybe poll the public as well, right, Paul?
Mr. Chairman, could I just ask a question of the gentleman? First of all, thank you for taking time out of your day to come in and meet with us. This isn't going to be a adversarial type of conversation. It is background information based upon the report from Municipal Resources dated December 2018. The question I have, has everyone had an opportunity to take a look at this report? Are they all familiar with this report? Okay. If we are not, we can just walk our way through it and go from there. Again, we are not tasked to recommend the forming of a DPW. It is just one of the things we are looking at based upon this one report. Could I start with a couple of questions?
Absolutely. Should everyone introduce themselves?
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you.
If we can start maybe with Jason.
Sure. My name is Jay Johnson. I am the Vice Chair of the Board of Selectmen. Been on the Board of Selectmen since 2019, a year after that report. Oh, Highway Commissioner, Cemetery,
Beaches.
whatever else on the list.
So on and so forth.
Stephen Sullivan, Dudley Board of Selectmen. I was on the board when this report was formulated and presented.
George Petrinas, Water Sewer Superintendent.
MJ Gatsky, Highway Superintendent. Scott Skowski, current Chair of the Water Sewer Commission, and I've been part of either water, sewer, or both for about 25 years.
Justin Dolan, Vice Chair of the Water Sewer Commission. I was not on the board at the time that document was generated. I'm just finishing up my first term on the Water Sewer Board.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just a little bit of background on the report itself from the executive summary. The town commissioned this particular company to look at municipal resources, the services of municipal resources, to look at an impartial assessment of highway, water, sewer department operations, including organizational structure, staffing, divisions, accountability, span of control, financing, everything right across the board. Now, the way this was completed is that the consultant team utilized a wide variety of data collection, some being consultants interviewed town administrator, department heads, line staff, and appropriate elected and appointed officials. They've also conducted interviews with supervisors and other staff with unique responsibilities in each of the departments. Consultants gathered documents to review them on different policy issues between the two departments. They've based this report on best management practices. Those practices were developed through the team's collective experience when working with DPW departments throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, also through National Public Works standards. So what they've done is they've looked at how other municipal services in the Commonwealth and nationally operate under a DPW. They also collected data from comp communities, similar type of communities, to see how they operate, what their efficiencies were, what their deficiencies were. So the one thing I'm going to begin with, and please, if you feel that this has already been addressed since this report came to light, please let me know, okay? But let me ask you this. The Town of Dudley's Public Works operations currently operate under an extremely decentralized and archaic organizational structure. Would you believe that to be true or not?
Nope.
Okay, why
Yes.
not? You do?
You shaking head?
Yes.
Did you say no, sir?
I think I've got
Said
two
no,
different.
but
He said no first. He can go first if you like.
Okay, please.
Scott.
Yeah, it is decentralized, that's for sure. But I don't believe it's archaic.
Okay, and again.
That's an opinion. That's an opinion.
Some things may have changed since the report was issued. So we are still looking at a decentralized system of operations between the three departments.
Water and sewer are centralized
Mr. Sullivan?
amongst themselves.
So, pre-report, when I first got elected way back, we had very decentralized, disjointed, to the point where we had cemetery commissioners who were elected, I believe, who hired like their own lawnmower people, for example, maintenance, to come in. When we first talked about DPW, and don't pin me to the day, I want to say it was probably early 2000s, 2008, 9, in that area. Maureen Bounds was a cemetery commissioner. Some people must remember Maureen. They brought it to town meeting to basically do away with themselves to make cemetery commissioners out of the selectmen. At that time, I wasn't in favor of it because I had a job, and I'm like, how am I gonna, if I have to do something, like a grave opening or a permit, they have to come find me. Once we got it, my opinion kind of changed, and I said, you know what? I think it's a good idea. And when they first talked about DPW, I was against it, only because I said, we need to get our being the Board of Selectmen's house in order. It took a couple more like-minded selectmen to get elected, and we eventually got cemeteries, building and grounds department, which I was against in the beginning only because instead of creating a whole new department, which was, I believe, 2 full-timers and a part-timer, I said we should give the highway department 2 or 3 new full-time workers and just give them the work, put them in the union. Didn't work, that's okay. But eventually we absorbed beaches, cemetery, building and grounds, maintenance. Tree warden was a separate position. We now have that in the job description of the highway superintendent. So in my opinion, we, as a board, through our different itinerations, we did put our house in order. We have everything under the highway superintendent, under the direction of the town administrator. So now we come to this, want me to keep going? We come to the study. I think, I reread the whole study. I saw what you're reading, Paul, off of page 7, off the executive summary. Well, I agree with Mr. Zakowski, water sewer would be considered centralized. That's like MJ saying highways centralized, but they're not centralized together. Is there a high level of cooperation? I believe there is. I believe George does an excellent job, even before he was superintendent, helping with the workload. MJ, even before he was superintendent, does an excellent job with the workload. My opinion, not speaking for the board, as a selectman, I have always leaned in favor of the professionals. We have town council. I certainly question sometimes. I certainly ask questions. I generally go with town council's opinion. We have town engineers that come before us. We're going through it right now with the water line. I generally lean towards the experts. We had people come before our board, before the report was even publicized at the time. We had already received it as selectmen. We hadn't even put it out yet, that adamantly were against it. I don't know why. We asked questions at that time. Why are you against it? You haven't even read the report yet. So, that being said, this was an impartial, professional company that came in, I believe did their due diligence plus. I don't think they left any stone unturned. As you touched on, Paul, they used national standards, they used comparable community standards, and they also used DLS. They leaned a lot on DLS. Those are the professionals. We just had them come in and do another top-to-bottom study at the behest of citizens that wanted us to be audited as a town. The auditor said the state auditor said we don't audit unless there's a theft, or Rick would know better than most. They gave us DLS, and DLS came and did a comprehensive study. DLS was on, if I read this correctly, was on board with it. All that being said, my opinion, somebody has to be in charge. George does a great job. MJ has stepped in, done a great job. Their peers, they cooperate well, they get along well, they swap equipment, manpower, the work gets done. Somebody should be in charge. And I'm not saying the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, I'm not saying the chairman of the water sewer would be in charge. To me, it only makes sense. I worked for the Postal Service for a long time, one of the probably most disjointed outfits you're ever gonna see. Somebody was in charge. I think everybody here has a job, somebody's in charge. It's not Teddy Roosevelt, but it is in a way. The buck has to stop here, and whether that buck stops with a DPW superintendent or whatever the case may be, I think it is time. And again, I'll keep going till you want me to stop. Some of the arguments that you hear to this day, selectmen want to get their hands on our retained earnings. That can't happen. There was an issue several years back in a local town where somehow monies was used and the state came in and said, no, that's it.
Mr. Sullivan, if you've read through the, or reviewed the report, you could make note of page 11 on the Water Sewer Commission. They actually give accolades to the Water Sewer Commission because it indicates accepting the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half. The fees and charges can only be used, and that's in bold text, to fund water and sewer operations, including personnel, equipment, and benefits of employees, debt payments, and any other reasonable direct or indirect costs associated with the delivering of the services to its customers. They went out of their way to give accolades on the acceptance of this section of Mass General Law to prevent the looting of retained earnings.
Correct, and I don't think that would ever be the intent, whether I'm on the select board or not, of that ever happening. Most of my argument is based on this report. We had a professional organization come in, they did their due diligence, they had noted all their work, they didn't just pull out unreasonable conclusions, and they justified it all, and I believe they came before us several times during the process as it was going, and just like the DLS study that you guys are almost like charted under right now, the professionals have spoken, and they're centralized, MJ centralizes, yes, it's archaic that we're not under DPW. Perfect language quoted right out of the report.
So I think we could use that to, I just have two other questions, to go into page 35 in our second paragraph down. It indicates that redundant purchases will not be needed in a combined department. Would you find that to be accurate and truthful, or is that a statement that would not be completely accurate for our situation? Mr. Dole?
I would have question and pause, simply to our earlier point that revenue coming in for water and sewer is directed to be used for water and sewer. In the instance, of buying a piece of equipment out of retained earnings or whatever it may be from revenue, I don't know how you can tie that to other town functions if it was paid for by the ratepayer, not the taxpayer. That's where, looking at it objectively, that would be my concern.
Mr. Johnson.
In cases of asset sharing, often what we do in the private world is you can appropriate parts of the assets and have it depreciated in the correct area by percentage of use. And you can calculate that a lot of different ways. Is it an estimate? Is it an actual usage? Is it, you can find a lot of ways to measure that if that's the way asset sharing needs to happen. So there are methods, but to ensure that it's correct, it would require some forethought and some work.
And I believe what both gentlemen said is true, but I believe that question came up at the time. And the flip side was, what if water sewer needed personnel or equipment that the highway could provide? I actually said as selectmen, if that's the case, then the theory is we can't use their equipment because water sewer paid for it, and I'm a water user, not sewer. I could go see Jen Canoy and she can break my bill down, every dollar I pay, tell me how much is benefits and pay, how much is retained earnings, how much is their debt for water users. So I know I asked publicly, well, why can't we do that, flip it? If they're using a highway, bill them like we would if they were a private enterprise. Because my understanding about the enterprise system, it's a form of accounting. That's how they regulate their rates, that's how they finance their purchases. I mean, they go to town meeting, obviously. It's a method of accounting. They're still part of the town. It's not it's a separate silo, but it's on the same farm. That's why I think we should move more towards a centralized, again, I'm repeating myself, I understand that. I'll stop saying
The issue that, yes, sharing of assets is important, and I believe it's being done very well now. We don't own any equipment that the highway doesn't. They use, the individual departments use use each other very well. The issue arises from if the water department needs some help for a dig, call the highway department, they send a crew over with a truck, without a truck, whatever, and they can help dig the hole, great. And water employees can go over and help the highway department do a lot of their work. Unfortunately, due to state regulation, DEP regulation, every employee of the water department, everyone who handles any of the water, sewer infrastructure, anybody who works on the direct infrastructure of it, must be licensed for the water department. I'm sorry, sewer department, there's no license requirement. There are certifications, but and we're pushing our people to get them. But for the water department, they must be licensed, and they must be licensed to an appropriate level.
Mr. Zakowski.
They can help with digging the hole, but once the hole is dug, they have to step back.
Page 31, under 3.4.2, cross-training. The report indicates that the Water Department cross-training is limited by the fact that certain work requires a DEP distribution and/or treatment license.
Right.
More staff is needed to get the DEP treatment and distribution licensing.
Yes, and
This dates back to 2018.
And all of our personnel have been
Has that
pushed.
been corrected at all?
Yes. I will admit up front, I only read the executive summary. I just don't have time to read 75 pages of,
There's a lot of recommendations in here,
Sure.
and we don't have time, but
Right.
it'd be nice to get an update, like, where the
all
recommendations were, and
all
where are
of
we
the
today?
needs of the water and sewer department, every one of them that were listed in that executive summary have been addressed since then, or are being currently addressed. The example, I don't have it in front of me, but the example is the I&I, infiltration and inflow. We're currently, we've spent over $1 million already addressing that up on the hill section and behind here. But that's ongoing, will be forever.
Do we have a master capital plan in the town? As it's
There's a capital improvement committee
capital
that
improvement
puts
plan
together a
and everything?
plan.
So that was a big item in this that, wasn't in existence at the time.
And we-
Preventive maintenance, capital plan for the town, all that stuff. I mean, I'm just kind of.
Yeah, I'm sure it could be better, but there is,
Yeah.
we have to come up every year with.
So it's in your mind, you guys are
with-
working on it, it's something that every year, there should be a review annually to review the capital needs of the town. These were all recommendations
Mm-hmm.
and suggestions in here, that's the only reason why I bring it up.
Mr. Sullivan.
So to go back to 3.42, Paul referenced, one sentence, the incentivizing of cross-training states incentivizing employees from the highway to get cross-trained and have an ability to get license and certifications required for water sewer responsibilities, and they state could help reduce overtime cost. Also, when they do union transfers, they're posted internally first. I could be a highway laborer, have the ability to bid on a water sewer job, we're not having licenses, and then George can speak better than I, they're allowed to go get it. I think part of what Paul was referring to was the incentivizing highway employees to go get a license for cross-training purposes, because it'd be more seamless, not only to help overtime, if the union would allow that, I'm not sure, I have to get in the contract, I don't wanna get in the weeds with that. But it would incentivize these people, if they know, for example, employee A is retiring in a year from the water sewer department, well, I'm gonna go get my water treatment license, be able to be more seamless, make myself more attractive a candidate, and probably make that person able to do the transfer. I think that's what that section you referred to, Paul, was, because I know they do cross-training with their
So-
employees.
Yes, those particular, the licenses, they can go out and take the license. For example, our Jen, our admin, has gone out and taken the test and passed her D1 test. However, she's not licensed until she works is it however many hours, there's a large, it's 1 year or 2 years, 1,080 hours it might be a year, on the job in the trenches before they can be considered licensed. What's called in full. You're not going to get that on a highway department. You're not going to get that. We have a hard time getting the in full for our sewer personnel because they have to be working on the water system in order to get with those hours. And we're a small system. So getting those extra hours in the system, it's not just something you can snap your finger at.
George, did you have a comment?
Well, yeah, I mean, he elaborated on some of it. There is a lot of requirements. It's a year requirement to get your full license to be able to perform the type of work. As far as the laborers coming in from the highway department into the water department, there's a long process before they can touch anything or do anything, because if something does happen, we're held liable from the Department for the DEP. This whole thing with the DPW, aside from the managerial aspects of it, we're a small town here. DPW may work in a town that's fully covered with water and sewer utilities. Dudley is not. Dudley's about a third of water sewer, okay, less on the sewer, more on the water. But you start talking about multitudes of money being spent for DPW directors and this type of thing and this type of thing. A lot of towns out there are going away from the DPW and going into regionalization, and I'm talking water and sewer, mostly water, because they can't function under that umbrella. And the reason they can't function is because the requirements from a director, you're going to pay big chunks of money, and I'm not talking 80,000, I'm talking more of 150,000. And that's if he's licensed, fully licensed, to cover all aspects of water and sewer, along with the highway stuff. And it impedes our performance and what we need to do, because now we're checking in with him. If we don't have, or he's not licensed and he's telling us to do something we can't do, we're going to file a grievance with the state saying, no, our license is in jeopardy because we're not going to do what that suggestion is. It puts us in a big bind, and I'm not for that at all. Combining equipment and all that stuff, we do it right now, we do it well, and we do it within the confines of our finances and our monies, okay? Howie is hurting for money, we're always hurting for money because projects come about that we have to spend big bucks on, okay? So when we pull our resources together, it helps both of us out, okay? And if the system works good, whether or not we're in there for another 2 years, 3 years, or whatever, and somebody else comes in, it's up to the managerial aspect to ensure that the departments work under the good umbrella that they have right now, okay? They don't have to be a DPW and all of a sudden get into this pool of resources where, and don't be fooled. There is ways to take money from the enterprise funds to use for something else. You can say, oh, a backhoe is being bought for both entities. Well, what happens if the highway's using the backhoe at the time and we have a major emergency? They can't give up the backhoe because they have a hole that's being still dug and a road's being upset with, or whatever utility they're doing, okay? We need to have all our assets ready to go at a moment's notice, and that's why when we have a major main break, it's usually about a 4-hour to 5-hour time frame that we can get out. Call us almost like a fire department. Out the door we go, get the job done, get everything backfilled, get the people back their service. That's the most important aspect. DPW is good in the city aspect with large amounts of manpower, large amounts of money, whatever. Town like this, no. It doesn't, it's, you want to start getting into that city aspect, you're going to start spending tons and tons of money just to get to that point, okay? The profile we have now works good, okay? As long as the two guys cooperate in that, and that's always been a good thing, but it's up to the managerial aspect to ensure that that stays in place. That stays in place, no problems. Personalities and all that aside, that can be rectified, okay? There's always going to be animosity here and there. And that's something that has to be worked out by the top brass a little bit, whether it be a board, whether it be a manager or whatever, okay?
Mr. Chair, if I could just caveat off of a couple of statements that really were similar, started off with Mr. Sullivan, where he applauded the fact that the departments do work well together. And I applaud the fact that you do work well together. However, that is addressed in the report on the 318, Planning and Coordination. The current organization relies on the goodwill of various operating departments within a town to cooperate in a crisis environment or on a projected project-by-project basis. The lack of overall coordination and planning for the general needs may be detrimental. So I agree that the current atmosphere with the current administration and department managers is wonderful. It's to the benefit of the community.
Current,
But what's that?
current.
Current, exactly.
They
But-
weren't.
But we all here will not always be here. And is that goodwill going to continue with different personalities, different staff, different managers?
I would go one step further. A lot of the research I've been doing related to this committee has been around appointed versus elected positions. When should a position be elected versus appointed? And sometimes boards, whether they're elected or appointed. And I know that we often speak about control and who controls a board or who, the problem here, I believe, is that half of this topic is governed by an elected board and half would be supervised by, I believe, MJ reports into the town
Town administrator
Town
reports to the
administrator.
Board of Selectmen,
and reports to the Board of
which is an
Selectmen.
elected board.
Well, in that regard, yes, but we've got a direct supervisory case where maybe the town administrator might be responsible. But an elected board might tell the other half of this organization, well, no, don't do that, or we need you here or there. So it's not one person saying, I see the whole problem and I can help fix all of it. That could be part of the argument. George, Jason, we'll get to Mr. Johnson real quick.
So I think what you're talking about is accountability.
Accountability, yes.
Right, so an accountability, a well-working democracy, there's accountability through elections and then you see how many people show up for an election or a town meeting, and you wonder if that accountability is really there. So if, so when you get into trouble is when that breaks down.
Sure.
So like folks like us and Scott, when those elections are 3 years apart, there's no job review, we don't have a job review other than elections. How do you ensure that the accountability happens in a timely manner, especially when there's a dynamic set of circumstances that might arise? Scott was talking about, or George was talking about certifications. Like certifications, if you need management to have certifications, like George mentioned, you definitely don't want to do that with elected officials that can come and go and, like the wind, I said, every 3 years.
And be very qualified or totally unqualified.
Yes, yeah, to your point. So the accountability has to be correctly enforced, and accountability has to be that the person has the skills to do the job, in a lot of cases. So where you see the benefits, I think we're talking about the benefits are you can hire somebody that has the right skills to do the right work so that folks like George and MJ get the support they need, and it's not someone that's has a political need to do something, or he's somebody's cousin, right? So how do you do both? That's the difficult part.
So,
Mr. Dolan, I think you had some comment?
No, we've
No?
kind of resolved.
Okay,
them.
all right.
George is the hired professional on our department. Brian and Luke, the two distribution and treatment primaries, they're the professionals and they're part of the department. They're hired through the union process. George is hired by our board. The same thing, and he's accountable to our board. In the same way that the town administrator is hired by their board. He's responsible to their board. This whole process created DPW. Okay, you still need the superintendent. It's required. It's a required position. You still need your highway superintendent. So there's no savings there. Now there's another person, a DPW director. And as was said earlier, I would say is Probably in the range of $150,000 a year to get one that's gonna have all the licenses.
But if he has an engineer degree or anything like this, you're not paying all that money for an engineer.
He's not,
You're gonna get grant opportunities out of him.
No.
More grant opportunities. We're gonna get more manpower. I have 5 guys on the highway department. Look at this government study. In 2018, how many highway guys are on our crew? In 2018.
and how many could you hire for $150,000? But where I was going
But
was
you could combine
that
all these, everybody together. And
You
you're just gonna
can't.
restructure it, so you have your water and sewer money, enterprise, and there's ways to structure that.
your 2 primaries are required, again, by statute, to be 7 hours out of 8 every day
How many more
on their
years do you have
job.
before you retire, George?
On their job. It's just,
Depends how this vote goes.
Those are those boat goes.
2, 3?
Maybe 2,
It-
3.
Okay.
This is not gonna
Doesn't make
happen
sense.
tomorrow.
it adds another layer of bureaucracy.
Maybe soon.
And that engineer, yes, they have to be an engineer. That engineer can't do the job, can't replace the job that's being done by the hired engineers that do our water work,
Get out now.
do our sewer work, that do the highways, that are currently doing the work for the Eagle Drive project. It's the same engineering firm.
Yes.
But that can't be done by a single DPW director. Are you out of here? No.
No, it sounds like there's a presumption that it would have to be organized the way you're stating it has to be organized. I mean, that's not the only way to organize.
It's gonna be all
DPW.
structured.
Mass general law dictates how a water and sewer department is put together.
But it doesn't
Personnel.
dictate.
A
how-
water department.
Right, it doesn't dictate how a DPW must look, though.
No.
That's what I'm saying,
Right,
it's
so-
all how it's
So
structured.
there's different ways to approach it rather than a new position, that's all. But,
You could
again,
have like 3 hired
no.
departments, heads, kind of like the hired ones, and then
But I
they
mean, I
meet
think
together.
that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I don't want people to get locked into the idea that there's only one way to organize a
It's not
public.
like they're doing away with
The-
it.
There's 21, there was
the-
21, sorry to interrupt.
Yep.
There was 21
It's,
during this report. How many people collectively between the 2 departments are there now?
Our department, there are
We have just as much.
6 employees,
Oh,
your department,
So you have less employees.
7 employees. We have a.
Yeah, 7.
Office admin.
7 back then, and then for the highway department, how many?
right now, I have 4, 5, plus counting me, 6 counting me, plus 1 buildings and grounds employee.
Okay, maybe there's, I don't know, they said 14.
Yes, that's what we used to
So-
have.
That's what you used to have.
So the issue,
That's some
the,
substantial cuts.
when we did our introductions, and please don't take this as a shot, the first person who introduced himself didn't have all of his responsibilities in his introduction. He's a selectman and highway and cemetery and whatever, I think were his words. You know what ours are? Water department, water, sewer. Clean water goes in your house, dirty water comes out, and they go to the right places. That's it. We don't have any responsibility for anything else. And we are responsible to, yes, we're responsible to all taxpayers, but our primary responsibility is to the people who pay the rates. That's it. We don't have to worry about any of the other stuff. We don't have to get confused about all of that other minutia. We concentrate on water and sewer.
So, I'll take things backwards. I should be writing this down. Again, respectfully, like we said, Paul said in the beginning, I respectfully disagree. When the chairman of the water raises his hand, at no point in front of the town clerk does he say, I'm raising my hand to work/respect/do what I can for the ratepayers. He puts his hand up, and I'm paraphrasing, he says he's following the rules and regulations of the town of Dudley. So the secondary is his obligation to his rate people. So, to go back to the way it's structured, we're Board of Selectmen, Highway, George's Water Sewer Superintendent. Their guys are all in the same union. when they come time to negotiate contracts, they come to us. 21 years, I think I've been selected, I'm not even sure. Not once has a water commissioner sat in on a union negotiation.
You're wrong.
Since I've been a selectman, not once has a water sewer commissioner sat in, and I don't want to interrupt anybody else, so I appreciate not getting interrupted. As a selectman, people say, stop raising my taxes. My answer is, I don't raise your taxes. Any increase in tax has to go through the assessor's office or the general increase. Any 2.5 debt exclusion goes to a town meeting vote and a ballot. Water sewer raise goes to 5 commissioners, who, I was told more than once, act on a report of their engineer. Used to be Mark Devine, I'm not even sure who it is anymore. That's fine. They trust their expert to help them set their rates. We trust the assessor with the DOR to set our tax rates. So my general question, I asked it back then, I'll ask it again. They trust the experts, we trust the experts, but people don't want to trust this expert.
That's a good question, Mr. Chairman. What happens if, let's say the water department got sued for something? Who controls use of town council?
Generally speaking, we act on requests. The administrator does. It doesn't generally filter down to the entire board of selectmen. If they were in some kind of legal action, their admin through their chair would contact.
But ultimately, it's the board of selectmen through whatever chain, whether it's the town administrator, who makes decisions on basically whether or not and how someone can use council, and quite frankly, I assume the budget for council is under the chain of command of the board of selectmen.
Correct.
We have our own budget line item for
Right, but
legal.
you don't hire your own legal.
Not yet.
No, I mean, I'm not sure what the general laws allow for that, but I'm just trying to understand how that works, because obviously we live in a world where every town actually begins with liability now, it's not just Dudley, it's the liability of Dudley, so that's a big concern for everybody, so that's why I'm just curious who kind of controls the purse strings for council, that's all.
We have a current call into council now. It went to the corner office, and we got a call. Of course, then he went on vacation before we made connection, but we'll make connection next week.
Who hires town council?
Selectmen.
And
And ultimately, the direction comes from the selectmen, okay, which is typical, by the way. I'm just,
I mean, I'm sure, I know Olivia's only been a few years, can't say I'm sure, because how can I be sure, right? I'm fairly certain all the administrators and executive secretaries that served since I've been elected have taken input and/or disseminated the information to appropriate departments, saying, we used to have Attorney Brackett, we had Elaine Lucas, Attorney Master Alexis, now we have KP Law. I'm fairly certain that information flows out on who we have as town council.
in the last union contract, I sat in on some of, I couldn't be at all of them because I have a job, but we did sit in on those meetings, those union negotiations, for the first time. We asked and asked and asked, and we were never included.
Does your question hone in on the concept of the autonomy of the board, or the function of the board versus the town?
that's some of it, but I think what I was kind of looking at is ultimately how much autonomy is the right word as part of it, but there's a lot of, presumably there could be a lot of decisions made, whether it's use of counsel, whether it's a settlement of some sort of legal claim, that ultimately come back to the board of selectmen, because whoever pays the lawyer is who the lawyer goes to say, can we do this? So.
We have a PFAS agreement, a PFAS settlement coming in right now. It'll be over, when it's all, when we receive it all, it'll be just over $1 million.
But what I'm saying is, just on a regular basis, if you have an employment situation, okay, I assume, especially if it's a union issue, it ends up on the lap of the town administrator, ultimately, who's interacting with council, and ultimately somebody, let's say there's an MCAD claim. Well, that obviously goes to the insurer, but now you've got a legal issue. Ultimately, somebody has to decide if you're going to settle a claim. Okay. Who has the right to do that? Who decides if and what a settlement with an employee or a corporation, who makes that ultimately decision on such questions that come before the town?
That's Labor Council.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, so any questions for legal counsel, it's correct, it would be filtered through the town administrator's office. So any board in town that requests counsel for whatever reason, if the planning board has a question about an A&R, for example, that would come through the town administrator's office. And we would either ask town council on their behalf, or we would connect them directly with council. It depends on the situation. The Board of Selectmen are the ones that would represent the town in all legal matters. Even if it's a different board, it's the Board of Selectmen that are representing us as the town in legal matters and making those decisions.
Thank you.
If I may?
Can we go to Rich first?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Obviously, there is some passion on both sides of this particular question. Somebody before was talking about the regionalization of water departments. George, was that you? So you mentioned that DPWs, are they being decentralized along with the water department being regionalized? Or are the DPWs existing as highway and sewer and waters being separated out?
Some cases that is, some cases it's mostly for water and some sewer, but most of the case it's water because of the strict regulations required and people.
Sure, I can understand
you know,
licensing
it's
and all that,
extreme
so-
now, it's not, and the liabilities are enormous. It's not like the old days.
Sure, yeah,
That when this report
nothing
was
is.
done, that's considered like the old days. It wasn't, it's different now. Everything
Yeah.
is changing. This was more based on when it was water, sewer, water and highway were kind of thinking they were doing the same kind of thing. But it's gone way beyond that now. And like I said, it's great on a big city with a lot of money, but when you get into a small town with limited money all the time, you know, now you're getting into some real dangerous territory.
But you're not hearing of DPWs being dismantled?
No,
and
not
being
dismantled or some
Put
that-
back to highway departments?
Some have branched off away where the boards have come back, some
So
water boards have come back to
one of the
regulate.
ways that Dudley could leapfrog into the future would possibly look into a model like that?
As far as to regionalization, yeah, that's been.
Water
yeah,
regionalization,
that's very
but a
possible.
DPW that consists of highway and sewer, essentially.
Highway and whatever, and we would be a regionalization, yes, that's very possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. We have to take a break. Several members of our panel and I think one committee member have to go to another meeting. So it'll be a brief break, only about 10 minutes. So do we vote do we have to do a vote or do we just
Just take
call?
a vote to recess.
Just call a
Vote to
recess.
recess.
So if I could entertain a motion to recess for
10 minutes?
10 minutes?
Motion for 10-minute recess?
Second.
Okay.
Make it 15?
15 minutes, just to be safe,
I
okay?
like 10.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
But no one's ever sat in when I was in a union negotiation, but I was made aware since we passed the town administrator bylaw. Because previously we did subcommittees, 2 selectmen would sit in with water sewer, 2 would sit in with police, fire, for example. That Mr. Zakowski had sat in with those negotiations. I stand by what I said, no one ever sat in before, previous to that bylaw passing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Paul, I think, would you agree that we've probably got a fairly good representation of both sides of the argument?
From my viewpoint, I believe we have enough information for both sides, yes.
Okay.
Unless if someone else has
Yeah.
other types
Yeah.
of questions or points of view.
Unrelated. Yeah.
Okay, you have a couple questions, Hannah.
I wanted to ask more about the technology pieces of your work. I noticed that there is a request for an asset management system, a work order management system, SCADA, and a GIS database. Have you done any?
SCADA's completed on
Yeah.
sewer.
Perfect.
Asset management has been completed on both of them.
Nice.
On both water and sewer.
Both water and sewer asset management are completed. And we are now using those to determine capital projects in the future.
And do you track your work orders in any of those systems?
Those systems don't necessarily track workflow.
I wouldn't think SCADA, but
No,
GIS either, but the asset
most-
management.
Most of the workflow goes through our office here, and it's a semi-manual process, but, you know, it's done with calendars and things of that nature. It is not a full work order management system.
So,
We've looked at them and they're quite expensive, and
yeah, I use it.
for the size of our
Okay.
system, it's not really,
Yeah,
we're not like the grid.
yeah. Our work order system is also our asset management system, and it feeds back into GIS, so I wasn't quite sure what you had.
Not quite that, not nearly that.
And they talk
automated.
about this like planning together kind of stuff, so if all the work orders were in one area, someone could review what, if you guys are doing something similar in the same area. I was just curious. And did you answer the GIS one? I'm sorry.
We do have GIS for both water and sewer.
Okay. And how about the highway department? I mean, maps are pretty out there.
Yeah, we don't really have too much. I mean, we have GIS down, but
And how do you work, manage your work orders?
it's all manual. Everything's manually put in and everything we do.
Do you think you would benefit from some sort of system or no?
Yeah, it's all different, because it's every day to day is different with the highway department, so it's hard. Stuff comes in, you have stuff planned, but you don't have enough guys, so you have something planned, but it changes, and you could be doing that for a week.
Yeah.
So it's hard you can never really plan with the highway department. So it's really hard.
You're the expert, I'm just asking. Okay, that was all I had. I was just curious about the technology aspects.
Okay.
Did you want to add about the decentralization thing?
Yeah,
Oh,
going back
yeah.
to the point, there are numerous communities where I know they've spun out the water portion, not necessarily the sewer, into their own, and it's partially because the DEP has such a strong hold on the regulation for water operating systems in the Commonwealth, and that's where the tricky piece comes in. You know, to Scott's point earlier, the primary operator for the treatment plant has to spend 7 hours a day in the treatment plant working on water treatment. So you're not gonna be able to get any benefit from that particular employee to do other things, say, you know, go plow snow or something, because their primary focus should be safety of the water in Dudley. You know, those are they're looking at it objectively. That's where I see the biggest hurdle into combining things is, you know, the regulatory pieces that need to be maintained for the safety of public water supply.
And I think to someone's point earlier, the regulatory environment today is much different than it was 7 years ago.
And I'll make a general comment so that report was written in 2018, probably the data was collected 2016, 2017, you know. The water department of Dudley today is completely different from that water department that I read in that report. You know, I've only been on the board for a couple of years. What I know is, you know, the current environment, and that's kind of a historical perspective. That did not reflect as what I know the water department to be today, so.
And because of that PFAS, just something to consider. We just had a PFAS hit in Dudley on the sewage coming out of the fire station. Webster Sewer came over and tested, and they got a high hit for water coming out of this, had high PFAS in it. Right now, there are no regulations in Massachusetts for sewer. They're coming. We've been told they're coming. Once that comes, that regulatory level that is with water, it's going to be coming with sewer as well. During COVID, we darn near lost our whole crew for 2 weeks during the beginning of COVID when they got splashed with sewage in a sewer break up near the golf course. And they all got sent home and had to be tested and everything because there was COVID found in the sewage.
Right.
It's a different world. It's a different world.
I just want to ask a question from Justin then. So what would change for, you just said about DEP with standards and reporting. What would change what they're required to do now if it fell under DPW?
I don't know that anything would change. The regulation is the regulation. What I see is the challenge is if you have, and this is going back to MJ's point, like how this is structured, I think is really the crux of what you need to understand, because if we structure it with, a DPW director and they don't have the proper licensure or whatever, and they're telling, the primary operator to do something that's gonna violate their license, that's where I see the conflict. You would have to structure this in such a way so that that would work. And I don't know what that looks like right now, but just looking at it from an objective standpoint, that's what I would say is, you can't just plug a person in and go, okay, this is gonna work. Like, there's clearly a lot of nuances to it.
And just one more thing too, on the report, I don't have the exact section in front of me. At the time of the report, presentation, we were interim water superintendent, interim sewer, interim highway. And that was one of the reasons the firm, I believe, strike while the iron's hot, my words, not theirs. And if you look at their final corporate structure, and again, it's 2018, I get it. They instead of a superintendent, they had something I think they called a general foreman in charge, which I would assume would be George's role, just a different title. It's towards the end. It's the pages in the 30s.
Yeah, that would be my point, that
So
the statute requires, I believe, it requires a superintendent.
right.
It says fill all vacancies also.
And just to what Brian had asked earlier too about staffing,
And we were getting whacked
on our side,
because we
we
didn't.
eliminated the highway foreman's job. MJ's superintendent, we did not fill his position. When we went to, MJ, correct me, terminology may be off, like a senior operator. If MJ's on one job, somebody else is in charge. He gets a slight bump in pay. So not only did we unintentionally or unavoidably downsize, we lost positions that are probably critical to the town. If MJ's out any period of time, they're gonna have to come to us and say, who's in charge now? If we had a DPW with someone in charge, your senior operator would report to his boss, who would understand all the projects being done. So, again, I agree with Justin, and I agree with everybody. This was 2018. I thought it was a good report then. If we had to do some kind of updated report, I'm not sure how that would work, but I stand by what I said in the beginning. But that was a question I wanted to answer that too, about the, like MJ said, all the guys that he used to have.
I agree with the water being totally different now than it used to be too. I agree with that. It's different standards now. But it's all on how it's structured. It's,
I got a full head of hair before I could take
It
this
wouldn't
job.
change, like Justin said, you're not sure, but it wouldn't change their reporting, for example. Just change who they report to.
Right.
Back in the 70s.
Okay. Any other questions?
I just have one question. Do you have, at the end of the day, we're here to serve the people of Dudley, obviously, right? Makes sense. We're here, we were created because of a petition by some citizens of the town of Dudley. The bottom line is, all of this system, the DPW discussion and everything, do we track customer complaints? Is there a system for customer complaints for water, sewer, highway? And and what is the historical annual metric of that? are we getting better as it relates, at least one metric, a customer complaint? Try to keep it simple, right? Is that a fair question? Do we have that data? Can we get that data?
I don't know that the data exists in a formal system where we could quantify it.
It's on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's on Facebook? Yeah,
Where all our
that's why I
complaints come
asked.
from.
I have no idea if there's a formal complaint system and.
In my
is it-
short time on the commission, the complaints that come before the commission are few and far between. As you can see, there's not a lot of people that show up to these public meetings, and whenever you do get somebody, that voice is usually amplified because they took the time to come. But we don't have a metric of chasing that. We usually try to vote to resolve whatever that issue might be. But other than who shows up to a public meeting, I don't know that there's anything formal that we could quantify.
Okay.
Most of our complaints, it just happened last week, somebody was complaining about a high water bill. I keep saying over and over again, please, on the cameras, wherever you are, stop getting your information off of social media. I won't respond to it because that makes my personal Facebook profile a public profile.
Right.
And then everything that's in it is public.
I did see
That's
that complaint
not.
on Facebook, mind you.
So
Very
those,
high water
those,
bill.
in any case, those complaints, when I see them, I will either privately respond to them, or I will send them to Jen, and Jen will respond to them, look up their information, call them on the phone, and take care of it. When folks do come to our, usually when they come, it's because they've had a leaky toilet, or they've had an extremely high water bill, which brings their sewer bill up high. I had one year that was $800. They're now about $3,000 or $4,000, a runny toilet for a 190-day cycle. It's very expensive. They come to us and they ask for it. We won't, if the water goes through the meter, you pay for it, that's it.
Right.
That's been longstanding, and that was true for me, and it's been true for some very close friends who have sat at this table.
And then the
Everybody.
highway department, sorry.
But we'll abate sewer.
Thank
We
you.
we can abate sewer because that
The
water.
highway department, your request and your work requests don't come in from citizens, right? They just come in.
Sometimes I do,
They do?
like pothole requests, I keep track of all the potholes, streetlight outage, tree requests. We have that all, it's all logged and
Yep,
everything's logged.
I would defer that to Olivia too, because I know, and this is not, any department, I'm not talking water sewer. I can say charitably, 50% of our phone calls don't report to us. Could be a water sewer issue where they gotta direct them to the right person. It could be something as simple, we had incident at the library not too long ago, so I'd defer to Olivia on how we, as select highway commissioners, track. I mean, I've caught MJ out on the road a lot. I know how it used to be when it was Vinnie and Danny. Didn't quite work with Larry, but I was close. But I know how they used to handle it, and I don't wanna say that's how they do it now. I defer, Olivia could
I'm
probably.
trying to get back, I'm trying to get up in the times.
Yeah, well,
Trying to
Amanda's a
keep
big
it-
help too.
I'm trying to keep everything logged,
Right.
everything scanned in the computer systems. There was no record keeping here, ever.
Honestly,
You can't find nothing if you wanna look stuff up.
MJ knows, and I'm not, everybody did a great job. It used to be a yellow legal pad.
I'm not throwing anything
I'm not throwing anything
down.
else because the work got done. But
We did a
that's-
lot of work, but
To Brian's point, I would run into a former superintendent and say, what are you doing today? Well, Friday's like small project day, the guy to call with a pothole, the guy to call with a branch. And he'd have his little pad and he'd cross the jobs off and they were
it
done.
was
and go
all
to the next
paper,
page.
paper stuff, and after so long, it just got thrown away.
Right.
I'm not saying we weren't busy, I'm not throwing in, they did a lot of work. It's just, wasn't computers back then. So I'm trying to get into the
The
times.
addition of the GIS has helped us a lot in record keeping.
There's a system I'm looking into right now.
Any other questions?
With you.
Well, Olivia, gonna just talk about how they do it now.
Okay.
Through the chair, I definitely would like to add some context to that. So my office does take some calls like that. I would say the majority of concerns and complaints from residents get called in directly to the departments. And some highway complaints end up coming through me. I take that info and relay it to the highway department. Sometimes I get a couple water sewer that I relay right to Jen. We also have a system on OpenGov for complaints and concerns, that residents can go on there and submit the concern directly into OpenGov. It's great for after hours if you have a concern that you just can't call because it's 6:30 at night. And then the next day, someone goes into OpenGov and assigns it to the relevant department for the department to address it directly.
Okay,
So there are several methods that residents can get their concerns heard.
absolutely.
I should know this, does OpenGov total, keep it, like, can you go on, like, if you want right now, could you say, oh, we got 30 complaints in the last 30 days through OpenGov?
I could, yes, but
Okay.
I will say that the majority, vast majority of people do not use OpenGov as a method because they just contact departments directly. It's easier for them to pick up the phone and say, hey, there's a pothole on Airport Road, than it is for them to go in the system and submit that.
All right, thank you.
Or they'll complain about it on social media, and somebody will pick it up when they see it.
But what I'm hearing is there's no way to tell this. Again, it's the centralized versus the decentralized.
Right. The work order comes in, single funnel, gets disseminated, gets tracked to completion. There's some notes, there's history, that kind of system, that's metrics, that's data, right? So, if we're not measuring that kind of stuff, then it all becomes the tribal knowledge from Facebook on what the real story is. That's all. So, but it helps with, it's a piece of information, that's all.
All
That's
of
I
that
ask.
data collection and stuff, that all costs money.
No,
And every department in
Right.
town has had to cut back and do with less. We just fought at town meeting to pay unpaid bills. We generated the bills and we can't pay them because I think 3 people didn't, 2 or 3 people enough didn't say yes. So now they're sitting until June.
Mr. Johnson.
We'll try again.
I don't think anyone wouldn't appreciate a system like the fire and police have where they,
Right.
they record every call, right?
Right,
So,
right.
No, it's not necessarily a complaint, but it's, how do you record activities?
Yep.
I
exactly.
know I get picked on something like charts and graphs or something, but I can, the fire chief can show me what happened, and he can break it down 15 different ways and see that. And, to Scott's point, the infrastructure to do that costs money, but some savings from scale, possibly, we could work our way into a system like that. So I'm not saying we don't want to, I'd say we would want to. We probably should, based on the recommendations of anyone that wants to have a town have good customer service.
How much
for their
time is he spending writing it on paper and scanning it in, or whatever you're doing, right? I'm looking.
Luckily, I got an admin too that helps me out a lot.
No, but I'm just,
Yeah,
there was a lot of churn that
Right.
you had
And
to do
sometimes it
to
comes
try to
down-
organize.
Comes down from
And,
different offices to
you know,
me, down the chain too.
There
How
are
much time,
systems,
like
like the rave system, or reverse 911, or whatever it's called now. We share costs in that. Fire department pays, I think, half, and I think water sewer pays half. So it's, there is already, we have to pick and choose which pieces of technology best serve us, and rave, is it still called rave?
It is the rave system.
It serves us very, very well, getting information out to people. I know when there's something happens, my phone goes off, my computer goes off, and my telephone rings. So, that everybody has that option to sign into it. So, we do share costs for things like that.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming. I think we've learned a lot about the situation. Again, this is 7 years old, so you've brought us up to date on what topics here are pertinent today, which ones have changed, and I think some of the pros and cons or the merits of either keeping the system the way it is, or perhaps moving to a new system. I think we might, we're not making any decisions tonight, and we may come up with some more questions. We might reach out to you individually, perhaps.
Anytime.
And if you could just take a look at those requests and again, we're looking to put together a lot of information here. This is a big piece, but we also have, you know, several other things that we've been researching as well. So I want to thank you all for taking the time tonight. Anybody else have anything else before we?
Well, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you
You
very
guys
much.
are taking your time, it's a pretty big endeavor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, none of us get paid for this stuff, so.
Wait, what?
That's not what I was told. Maybe you're not.
Speaking of water sewer.
Maybe next meeting, you know, website.
You go for it.
You guys
No, I'm serious, I couldn't hear you.
So, I guess we missed the opportunity for asking someone from Webster, let's say, how they managed to do it.
I'd be happy to tell you.
That's all as a citizen. I'm just kidding.
Did you adjourn?
No.
No.
I'm trying to reel them back in. I'll let them go.
I saw them
They don't
leaving, I
have to
said,
stay.
wow, okay.
Item C, addressing committee member questions. Any questions?
Did you, I didn't hear, did you assign me any topics to research last time, or was it for other people?
No.
I zoned out while I was
Sorry.
reading.
There were.
They were divvied up.
They were
all the
divvied up, but I
remaining-
didn't hear any.
I have one and I totally forgot what it was.
I took one.
Yeah, we browbeated you
I think
into
you
taking
assigned one.
another.
I don't have those notes in front of me, but if I assigned anything to you, or if the committee assigned anything to you, I'll shoot you an email.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
just
I
don't have
think,
those
I
notes.
probably could find it. I'll find it. We'll let you know. I don't remember. I don't believe so.
And I'll touch up, I just want to change some of the looks to the, survey, and then I'll shoot them over.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, well, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
So move. Second.
Second it.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Perfect. Thank you very much.